Your 20s are for taking risks and experiences. I want to talk about that in today's video and why this is really the best path if you are a young person right now, and why this is the time why you should be trying everything in your power, especially when it comes to making money outside of the traditional 9 to 5, and also why you want to live in the now as well. So one thing that I see with a lot of people, especially young folks for nowadays, is they get stuck in the constant hustle culture, right? With working a regular job, 40 hours a week. And because of how much fatigue this puts on you, right? You work these hours, you're doing manual labor, you're getting, ditched at for not working hard enough, even though you feel like you are like trying to move as quickly as possible. And, you feel stressed out at the end of the day, you're not really making that much money. But when you get home from work, oftentimes all you really want to do is you just want to relax, right? So it's very easy to fall into that when you are already working 40 hours a week. The last thing you want to do outside of work is to work more, right? But more people are just working endlessly, right? They're working the 40-hour week. They're doing the 40-hour work week. They're doing Uber. They're doing DoorDash. They're doing, TaskRabbit, all these other things. And it's still barely enough to, cover the bills and all that, right? So, that's one thing that I keep seeing quite often. And as a result, time flies by faster than ever because you're doing the same exact thing every day. And then you end up living a very average life. And so what the sad thing that I keep seeing with a lot of people is, I will see someone that's been working at a particular company for 5-10 years, and throughout their entire 20s, they don't really have that many like standout memories aside from maybe the occasional family get together, or that's really it. Or maybe it's just like watching a really good movie, and it's really sad to think about. So if you want to live a comfortable life and you want to have more freedom, more flexibility, the first thing that I really want to talk about is taking risks. So you want to find a way to make money outside of the traditional 9 to 5 or just trading time for money in general. And so I don't recommend going to university. I don't recommend going into a trade because you're going to end up getting this position where you're doing a ton of manual labor and you want to live a long life. That's ideally what you want. Most likely if you're watching this video, the best thing that you could do is learn a way to make an income online. Learn either a high income skill that you could use to start an online business, learn how to create content, learn AI, all these things that I mentioned, even things like designing websites or creating logos or doing voiceover. These are all skills that are in high demand and have a really high earning potential. And the benefit, the number one reason why you want to invest your free time wisely into a skill that you can make money online is because you're going to have location freedom. And that's really the ultimate flex that you could have as a young person today. And so that is the best part about the modern life that we live in, right? There's so much negativity going on. It's a lot harder to live a comfortable life, but at the same sense, the caveat is you have more opportunities than ever for the average person to escape the rat race and make money without working 40 hours a week. And so that is really the best part about living in this current era that we have with smartphones, with social media. It's bad in a sense where people miss, life without social media, and I totally get that. But if you are going to be on social media, if you are going to be, on these apps, doom scrolling, you might as well figure out a way to make money with it. And that is really the best thing that you could do, especially if you're a young person, because you might spend, let's say 5 years, really investing all your time into something. And, worst case scenario, nothing takes off. You're posting content online, none of the videos go anywhere, and you try investing into an online business. Maybe it doesn't work out, or you don't really figure out how to really get it off the ground. Well, at the very least, you're going to figure out 100 different ways of how not to do something. And even if you are not making any money after like 5 or 10 years, then you're still going to be ahead of the person who spent their entire 20s just playing video games or watching movies or spending time with friends, right? So that's really the main thing that you have to be aware of. And so that person who decides to start at the same age as you at 30, where you spent the past decade really investing your time into learning something, you only need to be right one time. So the second that you find something that works and something takes off for you, then you just double down on that skill, double down on that type of content. For example, if you're monetizing social media, or maybe you find an ad or something that takes off, and as a result, you're getting a ton of sales. You're suddenly making a full-time income online or something. So that is why you want to invest your time wisely, because it is going to pay off in the long term in more ways than you could imagine. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is experiences, and I'm mainly going to talk about in terms of travel. So traveling is becoming a lot more expensive. Flights are expensive, hotels are expensive, and every now and then you might you might want to take like you get like a 2 weeks vacation in most jobs. So you might want to go on a vacation somewhere, right? But maybe you look at your current bank balance and you're like, oh, there's no way I could afford that. Or, I'm not really making that much money. Well, understand that if you just focus on making money all the time, which I do recommend that, and you're just focusing on, I don't have the money right now. Well, by the time that you maybe have the money, and it's probably going to be a lot more expensive in a couple years down the line as well. So what I want to get at here is, if you have an opportunity and you really want to travel somewhere, you want to experience something, maybe you want to attend a event, business event, or you want to network with people and you want to travel somewhere, the best thing that you could do is borrow the money, get a credit card or use one of those like pay later apps, and do what you can to book the flight, book the hotel, and request those days off work. And the reason why I recommend this, although it sounds like horrible like money advice and like why should I take advice from some random guy wearing a flannel shirt basically, the reason why I recommend it is because that experience that you get from that is going to last a lifetime. Whereas a year from now, you're never going to look at your bank balance and think, man, I wish I still had that extra $1,000 or $2,000 in my account. You could easily bounce back from a high expense if you work a couple extra hours later on, or if you are just focusing on making money. Maybe you have a business that takes off later on, and then you could just pay that off. And so that is one thing that I've started doing within the past few years. So up until the age of 24, I got started in the make money online space at 19, but I didn't have friends that I hung out with regularly. I wasn't the type of person where I was going out and socializing with people. I never been on a plane until the age of 24. So the first time that I ever been on a plane was after I manifested this large sum of money, which is a whole other story in itself. And then there was this, business event that was coming up that I was thinking about going to. Since I had this, massive amount of money, which was like $16,000, I thought, well, I had the funds, I could just book this trip. And then I did that. So I booked the flight, booked the hotel, first time ever doing that. And then I went to that trip, and it was a lot of fun. I got to explore Atlanta, Georgia. And while I was there, I received an award for hitting the top rank in that, in a company that was promoting, right? I was getting a ton of sales. And then while I was there, I got to explore Atlanta, Georgia. I got to explore the Coca-Cola factory, Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta. I explored the Atlanta Aquarium, or the Georgia Aquarium it's called. And I got to just kind of explore a new area that I'd never been before. So that's one exciting experience. And I've also been to Dallas, Texas 2 years ago. I was at Tempe, Arizona a year ago. And then next month in September, I'll be heading to Branson, Missouri. And that's for another marketing event that I'll be going to as well. So these events are a lot of fun, and it's something that you can experience, whether you go to something like that, something where you can maybe make more money from it, or even just a regular, just a fun experience, attending a sporting event if you can. You will never regret the experience, because you could always make the money back later on, and that the cost of that is probably going to be 5 or 10 times higher in a year from now, or maybe a couple years down the road. So that's just what you want to be aware of, and that's really the message I want to get out there. So let me know your thoughts down below if you found this video helpful. Give us a thumbs up and take care. See you in the next one.